Hello everyone. I want to go through this unseen that we did earlier on today for the simple reason that I think it's one of the best scenes ever. Absolutely wonderful. This one's Cicero about what you're going to do with your lives, with your careers. In eunte enim adolescentia, cum est maxima imbellicatis consilitum id sibi quisque genus aetatis degenda constituit quod maxime adamavit. All right then, first off, we've got an ablative absolute, in eunte enim adolescentia, for with adolescence, with youth approaching, cum, when there is the maxima, superlative, when there is the greatest weakness of planning, of forethought, tum, then, quisque, each constituit, decides, sibi, for himself, id, that, genus, type, aetatis, of life, degendai, to be lived. Literally that type of life being lived. Degendai there. Look at that ending, that degendai bit, meaning that it is a gerundive. So let's make that sound a little bit better. Then each person, quisque, decides what type of life he should lead. Quod, which, as in, again, which type he maxime adamavit, which he has liked the most. Itaque ante implicator aliquo certo genere cursuque vivendi quam potuit quod optimum est judicare. And so, ante, before he potuit, before he is able, judicare, to judge, before he is able to judge, quod, which is best, he implicator, he is bound up, he is entangled in aliquo certo genere cursu, in some certain type and course, vivendi, gerund, of living. And so he's bound up, he's entangled in some certain type and course of living before, antequam, before he is able, judicare, to judge which is best. I think this is so wonderful, this idea that actually, as young people, we are forced to decide what I'm going to do law, or I'm going to do medicine, when we're not even too sure what it is that we're good at, what it is that we love, what sorts of people we want to be. And that's exactly what Cicero was saying 1,000 years ago. Nam quod Herculem prodicus dicit, ut est apud Xenophonontem cum primum pubesceret. For Prodicus, according to Xenophon, nam Prodicus, that's your nominative, dicit, says, apud Xenophonontem, according to Xenophon, that Herculem, as soon as you see this dicit, as soon as you see a verb of saying or thinking, look for your accusative infinitive. Our accusative is Herculem, that Hercules, I'm sorry, this is a very long sentence, and so I've split it up into different parts. That Hercules, cum primum pubesceret, when he was becoming a man, quod tempus, a natura ad delegendum, quam quisque viam vivendi sit ingressorus datum est, which is the time, quod tempus, which datum est, literally which time is given by nature, which is the time given, datum est, by nature, a natura, ad delegendum, for choosing, quam, which, viam, path, vivendi, of living. Vivendi there is a gerund, which path of living, quisque, each of us, each man, ingressorus sit. I'm saying man, rather, it is obviously man or woman, but here I'm going to say each person, I suppose you could say. Each man is sit ingressorus, is going to embark upon. I suppose you could actually say that here it's the quam viam, it's actually an indirect question. It's what type of life is he going to embark on as a direct question. This is the time given when given for deciding what type of life each person is going to embark upon. So vivendi there is a gerund ingressorus future participle with the present form of simsis sit, of the subjunctive of to be in the present tense. So quod tempus, which time is given, this time is given by nature, ad delegendum, gerund, for choosing which path of life each of us, quisque, is ingressorus sit, going to embark upon. So, Exisse in solitudinem atque ibi sedentem Deus secum dubitasse, cum duas cerneret vias, unam voluptatis, alteram virtutis, utram ingredium melius esset. There's quite a story about Hercules here. That he, remember this is still Hercules we're talking about, it was Herculem exisse, it was an indirect statement that we've got, hence the perfect infinitive that we have there for exisse, that he went out in solitudinem, that he went out into the wilderness, they went out all alone, atque, and sedentem, while sitting ibi, there, that he dubitasse, that he thought for a long time to himself. Cum, in brackets, cum plus cerneret, it's a temporal clause, when he, cum cerneret, imperfect subjunctive, when he, we get there, kern, obviously, as in knowledge or knowing or seeing here, perception, when he saw two paths, unam voluptatis, one of pleasure, alteram virtutis, the other of virtue, utram, which esset was melius, better, ingredi, to enter upon. This idea that Hercules got to choose which path of life, whether it was one of pleasure, or whether or not it was one of virtue. Perhaps we have a comparable choice, but we're only going to be able to do it if we genuinely cut ourselves off from all of the other forces in society that are trying to push us one way or the other. I think Cicero is trying to say, Hoc Herculi potuit fortasse contingere nobis item, qui imitamur quosquique visum est, adque ad eorum studia institutaque imper. This was perhaps able, hoc, this thing was, fortasse, perhaps, potuit, able, contingere, able to happen to Hercules, for Hercules, but not for us, qui imitamur, not for us who imitate, who copy those who appear visum est, literally to, who seem right, who appear to be right, quique, to each of us, atque, and we impellimur, we are driven, ad, towards eorum studia institutaque, and we are driven towards their hopes and aspirations, I've said here, towards their enthusiasms and institutions, it's got what I've said, their hopes and aspirations. Again, fascinating that Cicero was able to talk about this kind of thing. It seems so modern, as we were saying today, and yet he was saying this 2,000 years ago. What wonderfully true. Plerumque autem parentium praeceptis imbuti ad eorum consuetudinem moremque deducim. Usually, plerumque autem, usually, however, imbuti, I've used the word imbued, I don't know, maybe that's too sort of archaic. Having inherited, I suppose, the instructions of our parents. Imbued, I've said, with the instructions of our parents. Deducimur, we are drawn ad eorum consuetudinem. We are drawn towards the attitudes of them, towards their attitudes and their customs. Consuetudinem and morem are both singular, but I've made them plural. Usually, however, imbued with the instructions of our parents, we are drawn towards their attitudes and their customs. Deducimur there, obviously passive. Ali multitudinis judico feruntur, quaeque maiori parti pulcherrima videntur, ea maxime exoptant. Others, feruntur, are carried along judicio, by the judgment, multitudinous genitive, of the crowd, and they exoptant, and they head, maxime, greatly for ea, those things, and they head in the most part for those things, quae, which videntur seem pulcherrima, most attractive to the majori party, to the larger part. So we've had our parents pressuring us, now we have peer pressure. Some are carried along by the judgments of the crowd, and they exoptant, they head, maxime, in the most part, ea, for those things, quae, which videntur seem pulcherrima, most attractive to the majori party, to the larger group. Non nulli tamen sive felicitate quadam sive bonitate naturae sine parentium disciplina rectam vitae secuti sunt viam. A lovely sentence here. Some, non nulli tamen, some, however, sive felicitate, whether by luck or sive by a certain natural ability, by strength of spirit almost. They, now go for your main verb, secuti sunt, they follow the rectam viam. Notice here, when you're getting confused, you see, look, we know that these words have to agree with one another. They follow the correct path, vitae, genitive, of life, sine, without the disciplina, without the pressure, maybe, parentium of their parents. Surely there is absolutely massive for us to learn from this passage. It is a wonderful passage, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is why we study Latin, so that eventually we can do these little passages. While there is so much for us to learn from Virgil and from his poetry, there's a fair amount that we can just get from little wonderful chunks of unseen's like this if we just look for the right ones. All the best then, see you tomorrow.